Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We are here doing a new type of video that I am curious to see what your guys' opinion is on. So I am doing a what I read in October video. I can guarantee you there's probably going to be one more video after this of like one more of me doing one of these, but I'm going to pretty much just test this out, see if you guys like it. I am also obviously in a different spot. I have a light above me, which might not be the best lighting, but because it's above me instead of like on my face. So we're just testing it out. If I need to change it, I'm gonna change it. But I'm gonna show you guys the books that I read in October, if I can pick them up. Here is all of them right here. There is a decent amount of them. I read, I think 6. Technically I read 6, but one of them is a reread. So I still want to talk about it though, because it is part of the reason why I know for sure I'm already going to do another what I read in video, because of the book that's going to be in November that I'm going to read. Again, this is my first time ever doing one of these, so apologies in advance if we are a little scatterbrained. We're going to figure it out. So the first book that I read at the beginning of October is called The Silent Patient. It is by Alex Michaelides, and I heard so many things about this book. So this is about Alicia, whose life all of a sudden kind of changes because her husband Gabriel is found dead and she's presumed to be the murderer. She is then put into like an insane asylum, and the main character in this, Theo, is pretty much trying to figure out why she hasn't talked since her husband was murdered. He's trying to essentially talk to her, get her to talk. She hasn't said one word since he got murdered, and I was not expecting the twist at the end of this. I read this when we went camping. I went camping at the beginning of October. I read it the night before we left, and we drove home. We had a 5-hour drive, and I read this entire book almost in that entire drive, and I was trying to figure out as I was reading it why everyone was so obsessed with it. I was like, okay, everyone likes it. There's got to be something in here that makes it where everyone loves it, and it's the twist. 100% it's got to be the twist, and I did not see it coming. Literally in the middle of us driving, I was like, hold on, excuse me? Like straight out, my sister looked at me like, are you good? I was not. Okay, so highly recommend this book. It is very good. I would give it 4 stars. I am not one of those people who likes to rate books, but I would probably give it 4 stars. It's a very, very good book. I did try to, through October, read like thriller types of books, or at least like Halloween kind of related ones, and this one was obviously a thriller. The next one that I read is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is the first ever, like, I don't know if it's considered horror. I think it is. This would be the first ever horror book that I've read, if it's horror. If not, it's a thriller. This is about Maggie, who lived in a house mansion type of thing that's called Bainbury Hall, and they flee in the dead of night. Her father then writes an entire book about their experience of them living at Bainbury Hall. However, Maggie does not remember any of it. She doesn't recall anything. She has no memories of living there, and she all of a sudden has to go back because she all of a sudden now owns Bainbury Hall. So she goes back there to figure out why they fled that night, try to find the truth behind it. And this was another one of those books where I was not expecting the ending. Like this is great. I understand why everyone also loves Riley Sager. This was the first book I read of his. I did read another book of his, which this one I prefer over the other one, and the ghost aspect of it is where I was afraid to read. I'm not a big horror person. I do not like scary things, and this was scary, but it was not too scary. I wasn't like full-blown having nightmares, which was great. I wasn't like scared to where I wouldn't continue reading it. However, it was enough for it to spook me, and it was really, really good. I really enjoyed this book. I read it probably, I think, in about a couple of days, maybe like 1 or 2 days, and I would also give this one 4 stars because it's a lot to give me to 5 star. There is a 5-star in here, but it's a lot to give me to 5 stars. But this was one that I also loved too, because you had snippets of the book mixed in with Maggie's story, and I love the way it was written. I just really enjoyed that one. Next I have two romances. So the first romance is called The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This book, I was not, it wasn't on my TBR. I just saw it and I was like, okay, this sounds cute. It sounds like a romance. It has a ghost, so it'll be perfect for like Halloween. And I was not expecting to like this book as much as I did, which kind of sounds wild because I feel like this has major mixed reviews, like major mixed reviews. So this is about Florence Day. She is a ghostwriter for a very popular romance author. She meets her new editor in the beginning of this book, and his name is Benji, or Ben. Their first meeting pretty much does not go very well. It's not good. They don't have a good like first meeting, and it's awkward, and she essentially has to go home after this meeting because someone in her family dies. The thing with Florence though is that she can see ghosts, and all of a sudden her new editor, Benji, or Ben, shows up as a ghost while she's at home dealing with her family situation, as one does. So the reason why I was not expecting to like this as much as I was, because I was like, okay, ghost, really? She falls in love with a ghost? That's kind of weird. It's kind of hard for me to put into like words how I feel about like this book and like how my mind was going through it, but I just really enjoyed the banter between Benji and Florence, and I just loved just her story as she went through dealing with everything, dealing with the loss in her family, dealing with him being there as a ghost, and I loved that aspect of it. Is it my favorite romance novel? No, I would probably give it a 3 stars, even though I did really enjoy it. I think it's a really good book for Halloween just because it's like a ghostly type of book, but I did enjoy that one. Also, the color of it, I love that it's like a peachy orange. That just makes me happy also. The book that I read after that is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine, not quite sure. This one was another one of those that I saw and was like, okay, vampire, Halloween, we're gonna pick it up. This is about Cassie, who is a artist, but is like kind of a obscure artist, so she has trouble kind of keeping a job, finding a job, and she is desperate because she's getting kicked out of her apartment. I think she's getting kicked out. Yes, she's getting evicted out of her current apartment, so she's desperate. She finds an apartment listing that is like $200, which is almost a dream come true because it is so cheap, but she's like, there's got to be a catch. So in comes Frederick J. Fitzwilliam, who, as you can imagine, is the vampire in this book, and he is the roommate, and he is a couple centuries old and is trying to learn all the modern day lingo, how to live in modern day, and that's why he needed a roommate, and that's where Cassie comes in. So she essentially is kind of teaching him the ropes of the modern world, and because it's a romance, as you suspect, they do end up obviously getting together. I was not expecting there to be a little bit of spice in this book, but there was a tiny bit of spice in it. And this one, I'm on the fence about, because it's cute, it's witty, I love their banter back and forth, but also I'm just like, it's a little too cheesy for me, unfortunately, and I did enjoy it. I loved like the covers, I like how it's split. I just do not think I would probably read it again. I love Frederick just because he's so out of the loop, has absolutely no idea what's happening in the modern world, and I love him. And then I do think him as a character is kind of entertaining, but I don't know if I would reread it again, purely just because I'm just like, oh, it's like in the middle ground for me. It's an okay book. Next, we have The House Across the Lake from Riley Sager. Y'all, I kind of hate this book. I like it and I hate it at the same exact time. The twist in this, first off, let me give you the synopsis before I even get into like my entire opinion on it. So this is about Casey Fletcher, who is a widowed actress that is trying to escape a series of bad press. She's retreated to a lake house that is in Vermont, and it only has like 5 or 6 other lake houses along the lake. Living across from her is a very popular model by the name of Catherine and her husband Tom, and all of a sudden Catherine one day goes missing, and Casey is trying to figure out what happens to Catherine. Did her husband do it? Did her husband kill her? What, like, is the guy that lives next door, is he involved? And I was so on par with this book, other than, you know, the creepy watching people across the lake type of thing, until the ending. And I'm so sad that I did not like the twist in this, but it kind of makes no sense how it could even happen. But I mean, obviously it's a thriller, it's supposed to kind of not make sense, but I did not like the way that, like, the route that it went, unfortunately, and it was not what I was expecting. I literally thought that it was gonna go in a completely different direction, and it didn't. And it just, when it finally all came down to it, I was like, this does not make sense. But I still enjoyed it. I still read it very, very quickly. This one did not scare me nearly as much as the other Riley Sager book that I read. This one was not as scary. It wasn't as spooky. I more so was just like, okay, I just want to figure out what happened, which is the reason why I read it so quickly. I'm kind of sad that I don't read like this book, but I am going to probably read more Riley Sagers just because I do enjoy the thrillers so far that I've read, which makes me kind of happy because I was kind of terrified of reading them. But I probably will pick up a couple more Riley Sager books, purely just because a lot of people rave about Riley Sager. And last but not least, we have a reread and also my 5-star that is currently in this stack. And oh my god, I could probably talk about this book for like a whole entire video. We're not gonna do that because we would be here all day. This is my all-time favorite book that I've read so far this year. Not my all-time favorite book, but it's pretty good and I'm obsessed with it. So it is Fourth Wing, and it is from Rebecca Yarros. I know for a fact, if you are like a book talker, you have seen this book. I can already guarantee it. You have already seen people talk about it, and you've probably heard people rave about it. So this is a fantasy. I feel like it's kind of more a little bit like romantic-y because it very much has spice in it. It has a romance in it. So this book is about Violet, who is the daughter of a general of a war college called Bezgaeth, and there are different quadrants that they can all go into, and Violet is forced into the rider quadrant, which means she is forced to become a rider of dragons. So essentially, she is forced into this quadrant. She can literally die at any point. She has to try to bond a dragon, and it's all about her training with a dragon so that they can eventually go off to war and she can be a rider with her dragon. There is an enemy in this book. His name is Xaden. His dad is the enemy of Violet's mom, and I am obsessed with him. First off, let's just say that. But he is a third year in this war college, and he is like the strongest rider that's in the quadrant, and he's like broody and secretive, and I'm obsessed with him. So obviously Violet has to try to figure out how to navigate this war college, also while trying to navigate her biggest enemy and having to deal with making friends, trying not dying. She's also a little bit more on the fragile side because she's smaller than all the riders. She has weaker joints, weaker muscles, and everyone thinks she's just gonna die. So she has to try to prove that she is not going to die in this quadrant and that she is made to be a rider. So this entire book is the story of her first year of her going through the quadrant, her meeting her friends, her interacting with Xaden, which, oh my god, I'm obsessed with him. I'm gonna keep saying it because I'm obsessed with him. And I cannot tell you how obsessed I am with this book. I cried. It ends on a cliffhanger. I read this so quickly. I forced one of my friends to read this book. I was like, I'm gonna give you a book. I need you to read it because I need to talk to someone about this book. And the second one comes out in November, which is literally the reason why that I said I'm going to probably do what I read in November, purely just because I want to talk about the second one of this. I first read this book in, I think June. I think it was June. I first read it, and then I reread it on Audible because I wanted to reread it because of the second book coming out. So I wanted it fresh in my mind. I have about a week until that book comes out, so it's still very fresh, and I wanted to re-go back and essentially just listen to things that I missed. I listened to it on Audible instead of rereading it, and I wanted to see if there was anything that I had missed that I didn't notice before, and there's a couple of fan theories that are going around, and there's one hardcore one that I completely missed, did not realize, so I'm intrigued to see how it plays on and how the next book is. There's supposed to be 5 books in this series, and the fact though that there's already so much that happened in this book that I'm like, hold on, we got 5 more books of this, or 4 more books of this, and also I've already sobbed once, I've already like had all the emotions, it ends on a cliffhanger, and I've been waiting all these months waiting to read this second book. So I'm obsessed with this series. If you guys have any urge to read a fantasy book, romantasy kind of, please pick this book up. It's so good. I literally gave 5 stars because I am obsessed with it. It is such a good book. I am so excited to read the second one, which is called Iron Flame. I am so excited to read it, and I am excited to talk about it in the next one because I can already tell you I'm gonna read that book really quickly, and I'm gonna be really sad if it ends on another cliffhanger because I don't know if I'm gonna survive that. I genuinely do not know if I'm gonna survive another cliffhanger because this cliffhanger is a doozy. It's such a doozy, and I'm usually one of those people too that will spoil the end of a book. This was one that because I knew it ended on a cliffhanger, I didn't spoil it, and I'm not going to spoil the end of Iron Flame purely just because I am afraid it's going to end on a cliffhanger. But that is everything I read. These are all of the books that I read. I'm really glad that I was able to read as many as I did, and my goal was literally just to read as many like thriller horror type of books that I could. So that is going to be everything for this video. Don't know if you guys are going to enjoy this. I kind of just like rambled, and I don't even know if my thoughts are coherent, so sorry in advance if they're not. Let me know if you do want to see more of these. I will obviously be reading. I've read 43 books so far this year, and I will continue on my reading journey as long as I am enjoying it. So I will definitely be uploading more of these videos if you guys would like me to. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not ready to see more videos, and I will see you guys in another one very soon. Bye!